One thing you may have noticed is our when we display dates, it displays them in this kind of, it's an okay format, but we're actually not even displaying a date. We're displaying a string of a date. So to get started, let's rename pod model to just pod to be more consistent with our naming scheme. And let's add a new extension, and we'll name it date formatter extensions. I'm tempted, we'll see, tempted to do everything in one file for now and then move it out when we're done. Date formatter, make very certain that you don't accidentally type data formatter. That one gets me a lot. It's very hard to see. And this takes a date string in this format that we have, the year, month, date, and it would format it something like this. We're going to need a function for that. Then we'll need another function that formats a date. Let's say date string as, no, let's just say date for now. In the format month, day, year. We're not going to add with this one just yet, but hopefully we'll remember to come back and add it before the video is over. And it'll format it something like that. So let's go ahead and write that first formatter. It's of type date formatter. And it's a static initializer, and we'll create a formatter or a date formatter named formatter. And then once again, be very vigilant with the autocomplete formatter date format. Right there. Wasn't initializing. That's kind of silly. That's okay. And we'll say date format equals our string. And then the calendar we'll set to ISO 8601. And then we'll set the time zone just to make sure things are consistent. We'll set it to 0 seconds from Greenwich Mean Time. Oh, what am I missing here? Oh, yeah. Okay, we're missing just a small piece there, but it was breaking everything. That's how it goes, but that's okay. Let's make another file, and that's going to help us. That'll be very, very nice, because right now we could go into network and have it try to decode as a ISO 8601, but that would not work for our app. Let's make an extension called Decoding Strategy and extensions, which may be a misnomer. We're only going to have one right now, but we may have more later. And we'll, let's see, I'm just going to name it, I'm going to make an extension of, oh, look at that, see, autocomplete. We want date decoding strategy, not data. If you're having trouble and autocomplete is not being your friend, it probably means you're taking that first. Make sure you get date decoding strategy, not data. And we'll return a JSON decoder of type decoding strategy. And then we want to use our custom formatter year, month, day. If we hadn't done that, it's just a little trickier. We'd have to use this snippet, but this lets us just use a dot operator when we want to use that code. Okay, let's go into our data extension. And we want to add a date decoder. Our date decoder that we just made, kind of notice this file is we're having to change multiple things. We're not going to do anything about that today, but I think we will do something soon about that, because I think we can do a lot better than that, perhaps with a generic function. Okay, so I think we're ready to go into our model, and we'll attempt to change it to a date, optional date for that type, and then we'll say date formatter okay, and the build failed. Let's see what the problem is. Okay, that's kind of a good thing because it's in our view here. Since it's a type optional or an optional date now, let's use optional chaining and get the description instead. Okay, it's telling us we need, hopefully, I think this should work. Let's see. Oh, my bad. For now, let's just do this. You can kind of see it's kind of an issue piling up here where we're doing more and more in the view. We may, at some point, we'll move some of this probably out of the view, but this will do for now. I'm going to go ahead and we could do some logic. It might be best to do some logic here, just like we have here, to say if date equals pod date, then we can take this and display date description. And I don't like having these if statements here, but it kind of, it's just how it goes sometimes. Okay. And that's working. We can see we get a big ugly date here, but I wanted to do it this way. First, we see the time is 0. That's great. That's what we want. Let's go back into our date formatter description. Let's put an extra slash there. That'll make that documentation. Let's create another formatter, and we'll name this one long date. And once again, make very sure whenever you're typing date and using autocomplete that it's date that you're typing and not data. Okay, and we'll set the formatter date style, not the format, to long. And the formatter time style, not the zone, to none. We don't want to show the time because there's no useful data there. And we'll set the calendar identifier again, just like we did above. I think that's right. And then I'm going to copy these, it'll just be a little faster. And then we'll close that out, initializing it. Okay. That should allow us to format the date a little more nicely. Let's see, we might make an extension to make it just a little bit easier. To do, to call that, invoke that formatter. Let's do a new file. And I don't know, hold on one moment. I may not do that. We've got our date, and we could say formatter on that. Yes, let's make that extension. And we're going to make an extension of date so that we can just use a dot operator. Date extensions, not data extensions. Extension of date, and it should return my typing's not great sometimes this time of day. We'll computed variable of date formatter long date to string and self, and we'll put another slash there so that makes it documentation. We'll do the same here. Oop. And let's go back into our view and see if we can get that to work. I'm very hopeful. And we'll see on resume if we crash or if we get a nicely formatted date. And there we go. One thing I forgot to talk about at the beginning here is the why we want it as a date. There's several things. One is just to have it in that correct format or type. Two is so that we can format it easily. But there are other things we want to do later on. We might be able to want to sort the pods by date, maybe descending, ascending, or query by dates, or maybe send a range of dates to the API to get like a specific date range of pods. And the other big benefit is we probably want to start caching our data and our images at some point in the near future, and this will facilitate that process. So that's it for this one. It seems like quite a bit of code, but I think when you look at it, I'll put a link to just the code snippets, like my markdown notes, and you'll see it's just not that much code. Okay, until next time.